Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that extends a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Whether you are joining us in our sanctuary or online, we greet you with grace, así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. Please, open your gray hymnals to number 131. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join together, raising your voice as we sing, "Love Will Guide Us."
Love will guide us. We gather this morning to lift up the guiding force of love, a power that drives life forward, a power that can bring peace, a power that abides within each, a power that can change you, power that can transform me, a power that can bring more beauty, more justice, more hope into the world. Love will guide us. Love will guide us. This morning, let us offer those words so that they may serve as guideposts not only for this congregation, but for all of humanity. Love will guide us. Come, friends, let us worship together.
And now, if you will say with me our congregational covenant as found in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
I'm P.D. Wadler. I'm a member of the Capital Campaign Committee and also a member of this church since 2019, when I moved back to Texas after a long time away. I love being a member of this community, and part of the reason I was able to move back to Texas was knowing that this community was here. I grew up in rural South Texas in the little town of Wharton. And being a little gay kid from a Jewish family in a rural town, I remember coming to Houston and seeing two men eating together in restaurants, and just knowing that there was a place where people could do that was really important to me. And part of what we're doing in this capital campaign is making our community more visible to the outside world. We're sending ripples out, people we don't even know yet. Just knowing that we're here is really important. They're little kids knowing that there's a community of acceptance and diversity. They know that we're here and they feel safer in this town. We're also creating justice throughout Houston at a time when things are not so safe. We're a sanctuary for people, and we're creating justice and equality. That's part of why I'm proud to give to the Capital Campaign, and why I encourage everybody to help create a place for the future.
That was a lovely testimonial, and I hope that you will join me in supporting the Capital Campaign. There's still plenty of time to participate. Right now we have 65 households who have pledged and have raised thus far over $1.45 million. So we're more than halfway to our goal of $2.4 million. Children are an important part of our congregation, and kids, we love having you here and love that you're part of our community. This morning, we'd like to invite parents of young children, elementary school or younger, to go with the kids because they'll be making chalices home after the service. And Christian is throwing his hands up and back because this mic keeps going out. Yes, microphone glitches notwithstanding, please join with me in singing our song for the kids and their parents as you go, found in your order of service. Enter with me into the space that some call prayer and others name meditation. This morning, with all the difficulties of the hour, the conflicts and violence that sit heavy upon us, I can think of no better prayer or meditation to offer than the Metta Sutta, an ancient Buddhist scripture. So let us open ourselves to the wonders and mysteries of the world, to compassion and empathy. Take a breath. Take another. Center yourself and hear these words. Older than any nation, older than any country, older than any government. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, the medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living being, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection that is said to be the sublime abiding by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Hearing these ancient words, we pause now to lift up that which sits heavy and light upon us. We lift up the peoples of Palestine and Israel. May there be peace, reconciliation, and ceasefire. We lift up Bishop Carlton Pearson friend of this congregation who preached here last year. He is battling a recurrence of cancer, and we hold him, his family, and his congregation in our hearts. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those we wish to have held by the loving embrace of this religious community. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names. As we do, we hold them in our hearts and ask that we all remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that has not been named. So we pause now in awe and wonder of the mystery, diversity, and beauty that is life. And in the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of prayer, I invite you into a time of silence.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. Today, our shared offering will help to support our neighborhood science, technology, engineering, and mathematics elementary school. Your donation today will buy supplies for science classes at Lockhart Elementary, part of the HISD STEM Magnet program. HISD adopted a new science curriculum, but is not providing the materials needed to successfully teach the students. Teachers are having to buy supplies themselves, or the students will do without. Your donation will help give these talented students the tools they need to succeed. Those in the sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join with me in the words to dedicate our offering found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
The first reading is from the Charge to the Article 2 Study Commission. The new principles and purposes should guide us in the transformation of ourselves, our communities, and our faith into active networks of collective care, restoration, and justice. The principles and purposes you will prepare should be a living document that challenges Unitarian Universalists to place the liberation in all of its dimensions of all at the center of our lives. They should be honest about our past, name what we are facing and our inspirations and where we hope to be, not for just today, but looking out at the horizons. They should ask us to choose love in action as the path forward. So ends the first reading.
Section C2.1, Purposes from the proposed Article 2, Purposes and Covenant of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws. The Unitarian Universalist Association will devote its resources to and use its organizational powers for religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. Its primary purposes are to assist congregations in their vital ministries, support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to foster lifelong faith formation, to heal historic injustices, and to advance Unitarian Universalist values in the world. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. Here ends the second reading.
And now please turn in your hymnals to number 95. There is more love somewhere. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and lift your voices in song.
The new principles and purposes should guide us in the transformation of ourselves, our communities, and our faith. They should ask us to choose love in action as the path forward. Words from the charge to the Article 2 Study Commission. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. A statement from the proposed Article 2 purposes and covenant of the Unitarian Universalist Association's bylaws and rules. The subject of this morning's sermon is the proposed revisions to the Unitarian Universalist Association's bylaws. And I suppose from that statement, you now know that you are in the right congregation this morning, because we're not talking about Jesus. We're not discussing the weekly Torah portion. This is not a Dharma talk or a Hindu sermon. It's a discourse about that most beloved of Unitarian Universalist things, bylaws. Bylaws. The Unitarian Universalist Association is unique amongst the world's religious institutions in a peculiar way. We Unitarian Universalists place our primary statement of religious values in our bylaws. No other tradition does this. Scripture, yes. Ancient creed, yes. Foundational mythology, yes. Millennia-old oral tradition, yes. But bylaws, not so much. Bylaws are an unabashedly human creation. There's no pretense within them that our theology is more than the product of our earthly bodies. There's no sense that Moses came down from the mountain with 2 tablets, or that the Prophet of Islam received a visit from the angel Gabriel in the cave of Hira that empowered him with the ability to profess the overarching truth about the divine. Instead, we Unitarian Universalists understand theology to be a human creation. It's something that we find, yes, with our encounters of that which is greater than each, yet resides within all. But we are humble enough to suggest that our expression of that resides within our insufficient human language, within our insufficient human words. Theology as a human creation, language, the insufficiency of any mortal effort, we Unitarian Universalists have attempted to distill the rich disagreements amongst us. We're sitting out in the pews, I know, and watching online, I know, are humanists and theists, neo-pagans, Buddhists, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, practitioners of Ifa, and well, I know not exactly what else. We attempt to distill these rich disagreements on theology into some set of common principles. Our most recent efforts to do this as a religious movement came from the merger of the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America. In 1961, when they came together, they took to form a new religious association. They articulated 6 principles of a free faith. The delegates at the founding General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association were wise enough to recognize that these 6 principles were not capable of standing for all time. They understood them to be yet the latest effort to name the things most commonly believed among us that stretch back several centuries. And so when they crafted the 6 principles of free faith, they mandated that Article 2 of the bylaws, that place in the corporate text we love to stick our highest aspirations, be reviewed every 15 years. In 1984, this review resulted in a comprehensive revision that brought about the current 7 principles and sources. I anticipate that most of you are familiar with them. If you're a visitor, you probably know that if you Google Unitarian Universalism, they pop up at the top of any search about information about our tradition. And if you're a longtime member, you've probably seen them on bookmarks or heard past sermons about them or encountered them in our gray hymnal when you've been paging through it because the sermon that morning was not all that great. In 2018, the association's General Assembly began the process of again reviewing the principles and sources. As a result of this review, in 2020, the General Assembly decided that it was time to consider a comprehensive revision. So the Article 2 Study Commission was launched, and after a process which gathered feedback from more than 11,000 Unitarian Universalists, the Commission proposed new language for the bylaws. It includes the substitution of values for principles, the summarization of each of these values into a single word, love, justice, interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, and generosity, the removal of the specific sources for that which grounds us and sustains us in ordinary, difficult, and joyous times, and the assertion of the centrality of love within our tradition. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love, reads one section. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love, reiterates another. Congregational freedom and the individual right of conscience are central to our Unitarian Universalist heritage. Congregations may establish statements of purpose, bonds of union, covenants, so long as they do not require the members to adhere to a particular creed, is how the association's famous Liberty Clause is being rephrased in this rendition of the bylaws. No particular creed, liberating love. This habit of ours of democratically deciding how to state our highest values and aspirations is one of the central practices of Unitarian Universalism. This year we're living into it by, as a religious association, devoting a year of study to the proposed new text of Article 2. And in our congregation, that means that today and next Sunday after the second service, we'll be hosting forums to discuss the revised text. Are there things about it that you think can be improved upon? We still have an opportunity to amend it if by February 1st, 15 congregations agree upon a proposed amendment. Then the General Assembly will consider incorporating revisions into any new text of Article 2 this June when it meets online. On November 15th, our board will consider endorsing amendments from any member of the congregation who wishes to present one. So if you have ideas for changes, that you need to send them to Board President Ron Cookston by November 13th to have them placed on the board agenda. Our board intends to share any changes that it decides to endorse with other member congregations in the hope that we might get to that threshold of 14 others to agree with us and place them on the Assembly's agenda. The Assembly then votes on whether or not to change the language of Article 2 after considering any amendments that meet the 15 congregation threshold. 2/3 of the delegates participating will need to vote to approve the changes in order for them to pass. Delegates are apportioned by congregational size, and we will get between 6 and 7 of them this year. So if you want to serve as one and take part in the debate around Article 2 at the Assembly, please let the board know between now and April. Liberating love. This habit of ours in which we democratically decide upon how to state our highest aspirations is one of our central practices, and it is a wonderful opportunity to articulate what it is that we think is of greatest worth in the world. Over the years, though, this democratic practice has made Unitarian Universalism the butt of a number of jokes, some of which we tell each other and some of which people tell about us. You might have heard the one, for instance, about the Unitarian Universalist congregation that always stopped singing their hymns midway through. They had to hold a vote on whether or not they agreed with the words. Perhaps not so funny, so let's try another one. A Unitarian Universalist is trying to explain their tradition to a new friend. The friend asks, what does it mean that Unitarian Universalists is a creedless religion? Does this mean you don't believe in anything, right? No, that's not what it means, the Unitarian Universalist protests. So what do you believe in, the friend queries. Well, for one thing, we believe in creedless religion. What's the greatest sin in a Unitarian Universalist congregation? A discussion group where everyone agrees. Or what about this famous one? How many Unitarian Universalists does it take to change a light bulb? At least 3, because you have to ensure that there's enough people there to have a majority vote. My favorite, of course, though, is the old standard, "Yea, though I walk through the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for evil and good are but human constructs." Evil and good are merely human constructs. Now, I have to admit, I have mixed feelings about the proposed changes to Article 2. The values are wordier than the principles, and I very much dislike the substitution of the 6 sources with a more general claim about the religious ancestries we inherit and the diversity which enriches our faith and calls us to deepen and expand our wisdom. But love and action and liberating love, these are things that have some theological depth to them. Evil and good might be human constructs, but love is not. If you're some variety of a theist, then you likely believe that God is love and that love your fellow as yourself is a primary religious injunction. But we need not even look to divine reality to assert that love extends beyond human construction. In the last decades, numerous biological sciences have found a physiological basis for love within the human brain. Love beyond belief, the contemporary Unitarian Universalist theologian Tendeka has done extensive work on how the biological reality of love provides the real ground for moral values and religious belief. She has argued that it provides a universal foundation for religion that different traditions name in their own ways. For the Buddhists, it might be Sunyata. For pagans, Gaia. For humanists, the infinite and uncreated universe, she claims. Love in action, liberating love, love beyond belief. In the last weeks, as I've been considering the proposed revisions to Article 2, I found myself focusing on what sort of theological resources these statements might provide. My reflections have drawn me to 3 things in particular. A line from my favorite novel by the Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky, a family story, and a verse from the Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. First, Dostoevsky's line. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared to love in dreams. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared to love in dreams. Second, the family story. It involves my grandfather Maury, my great-aunt Claire, my great-grandfather Nathan, and my great-grandmother Frances. My great-aunt Claire is the only one of the 4 who I actually ever met, and the story comes from my father, who I'm sure after the second service will gently correct me if I get any of the details wrong. Claire, Maury, Nathan, and Frances, they were Ukrainian Jews. For many generations, their family had lived in a community near Bilatsurka, a city in Ukraine that was the site several years later of one of the worst massacres during the Holocaust. They left the region well before then. When the Tsarist government fell, Ukraine was plunged into civil war. With it came a new round of pogroms, organized massacres aimed at killing Jews. These were so fierce and so frequent that one rabbi described the experience as always knowing that death awaits us, horrible death by sword and fire. Now my ancestors decided to flee and make the long trek from Bilatsurka to Marseille, where they could board a ship to the United States. The distance is over 1,600 miles, and they walked most of the way. My grandfather was maybe 2 or 3 at the time, and his sister was 3 years older. So imagine that, traveling 1,600 miles, primarily on foot, with 2 preschool-aged children. But that's not the story. The story is that they almost didn't make it. Someplace in the Ukraine, they got cornered by a group of Cossacks. Some writer, I think it was the Ukrainian Jew Isaac Babel, once described Cossacks as the traditional enemies of the Jews. Historically, they were a semi-nomadic community, primarily Christian, that moved through Ukraine and parts of Russia on horseback. The Tsar used them as cavalry, and they had a set of special privileges under Tsarist regimes, which included apparently the ability to conduct pogroms on Jews in the names of collecting tribute with relative impunity. So a group of Cossacks surrounded my ancestors. They forced my great-grandfather onto the back of a cart. They were about to take him off to kill him, I suppose. And my grandfather, he started to scream. Now, he was only 2 or 3 years old at the time. I'm not sure he fully knew what was going on. But he knew that it was bad, and he did not want to be separated from his father. His cries moved the leader of the Cossacks. He took my great-grandfather off of the cart, and he set my ancestors on their way. Eventually, they made it to Marseille and to Chicago. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing. That familial origin story can be read as something about the liberating power of love. The love my grandfather had for my great-grandfather moved him to terror at the prospect of being separated from him. The power of this love stirred something like empathy or compassion within the leader of the Cossacks. We will never know why he spared my ancestors. Perhaps he had children of his own and saw within the tears of my grandfather the tears of his own children. I do not know, but I do know this. Whatever happened in that moment, in that interaction, it was rooted in the liberating power of love. When we speak of liberating love, we're not talking about some easy trope or casual nicety. We're uplifting something that, through its ability to unleash compassion, has great power to save human lives. Article 2 does not tell us how to transform the world through liberating love. It just enjoins us that such love is the work of our faith. Tears, compassion, liberating love. There are theologians who might point us towards how we can unleash love as a liberating force. The martyred Salvadorian Archbishop Oscar Romero was one. He said, "There are many things that can only be seen through eyes that have cried." Unitarian Universalist theologians, Forrest Church and Rebecca Parker, are others, and they offer us similar advice. Church claimed that the core of our Universalist theology was to love your enemy as yourself, to see your tears in another's eyes, to respect and even embrace otherness, rather than merely tolerate it. Parker, meanwhile, writes, "There is no holiness to be ascertained apart from the holiness that can be glimpsed in one another's eyes." Another's eyes. The liberating power of love is found within the power of empathy, the ability to imagine yourself in another's shoes is unbounded. And here it is, with the horrors of the present hour, that I recall a stanza from the Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. He was for many years regarded as Palestine's national poet, though he died here in Houston. An opponent of Hamas, a believer in reconciliation between Arabs and Jews, he once described Hebrew as a language of love, and he wrote a long poem during the Second Intifada titled A State of Siege. There's one stanza within it that carries much. To a killer, if you'd contemplate the victim's face and thought, you would have remembered your mother in the gas chamber. You would have liberated yourself from the rifle's wisdom and changed your mind. This is not how identity is reclaimed. You would have liberated yourself. Now, I'm not going to pretend to have answers to the widely reported war in the Middle East, nor am I prepared to offer solutions to the wars in Ukraine, Cameroon, or the Sudan. They're complicated questions that so many struggle to answer. But what I know is this: whatever hope there is for peace, if there is hope for peace, comes from liberating love. Liberating love is not platitudes or simple statements of intent. It stems from the possibility, as Parker would have it, of experiencing the holiness that can be glimpsed in another's eyes. The holiness in one another's eyes, liberating love. The task we would set for ourselves if we take as our purpose as an association the transformation of the world through liberating love is a great one. It is unlikely that such a task is achievable. Our highest aspirations rarely are. So I'm going to just leave the sermon there, not with a resolution, for the wars go on. And we Unitarian Universalists debate, as we love to debate, how to name our most profound principles within our bylaws. And we struggle with how those principles call us to live and act in the world where every day the news can break your heart. Liberating love, the lack of a resolution. Having to complete the sermon somewhere, I complete it here, unresolved, with an invitation to hold close the verses of our final hymn. What wondrous love is this, that brings my heart such bliss, and takes away the pain of my soul? May we all live into liberating love. Amen, Ashe, Shalom, blessed be.
I invite you to open your hymnals to number 18, What Wondrous Love.
Now, if you'll say the words with me in your order of service to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
What wondrous love! Let us go in the spirit of love, never knowing when or where we may encounter the divine, but conscious of the spark within each of us and the unfolding beauty around us. Go in peace, go in love, go in joy. May our lives be a blessing. Amen. Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.